Praise yeah. Yo, the SP Mark II is gotta be my favorite sampler for actually sampling on. For chopping, you got two dedicated control knobs for start and end points. It doesn't have as many features as something like my MPC, but it's still my favorite for how it works for chopping up samples, making beats. And I think that's probably what it's most popular for and most used for, at least from my perspective, since I'm into like hip hop production. But what about composition? You know, composing actual music. I think a lot of people probably sleep on using the Mark II for that reason, because it's got some limitations. It's only got a 2-octave chromatic mode, and then it's kind of awkward in the pattern sequencer moving from selecting new sounds, bouncing around in that, because if you got the pattern sequencer going, you have to exit it if you want to load up some new sounds. So if you are deciding to compose music, I do definitely recommend that you set up a bank full of sounds, like one-shot instrument samples. So I've got one right here with a bunch of different instruments, so I can start composing stuff. This way, when I'm in the pattern sequencer, I don't have to exit it necessarily and go into the browser and start, you know, browsing around for new samples to put in my beat. Now, all these sounds that you're hearing right now in this bank and in all the other banks and in this whole video are part of my new sample pack called Lift the Noise Project Pack #1. It's a drum kit and instrument template. So the way it is set up is I've created a project and saved it so that you can move it over to your export folder and use it as a starting point. So you have all these samples ready. So it's like a little mini rompler. So if you want to check that out, link in the description. So connecting a MIDI keyboard, some sort of MIDI controller, really smooths out the workflow with the SP. I definitely recommend a few different MIDI keyboards that I've used in the past. I've got a few videos, one with the Kai MPK Mini Plus and another one with the M Audio Oxygen Pro Mini. But today I'm using the Novation Launchkey MK4. This is the 25 key version. This is the latest model of the Launchkeys by Novation, and I think this is the best controller that they have, the best series of controllers that they have. I've had the Mark IV 37, which was a little bit larger, so I wanted to downgrade to a 25 key version for taking to work with me because it's just a little bit more portable. But I like these so much that I actually bought myself a larger 37 key version. I think these are the best MIDI controllers you can actually buy right now for the price and the amount of features. And this turns out to be an incredible music theory hack. I'm looking at it as that way more so than a keyboard, because you have scale and chord modes in this that really make this great. And then another reason why I think this is the best line to pair with your SP is because it's just the ease of use, the way that you navigate the menus and stuff, and the way you can select different options with the pads and knobs, I think makes it a lot smoother than the other controllers that I've used in my experience. There's a lot less menu diving with this one. So I'll show you why it opens up the workflow. First of all, if I want to set up my keyboard so I can play chromatic mode in here, the Roland SP chromatic mode information is transferred on MIDI channel 16. So if I press this setting button here, at the very top, you see settings, keys, channel. So I have it set to 16. You can easily change this with the turn of the knob, but you got two options. As you can see, the pads change, the light on the pad changes. So if I want to easily go to track 16, then I can press pad 16 over here in the bottom corner. See, very simple, very easy to navigate. So if I select a sound here, put in chromatic mode, now I have the key set up to play chromatic mode. But if I go into settings and I go down with these arrows, I can navigate the different settings menus. So there's a chords channel menu, which I also have set to 16 because there's other options here like user chord and chord map, which are cool. So I want to be able to control chromatic mode in the SP also with the pads. But if I go down to drums channel, I can select the channel. So I got the same, you know, process here using the pads. If I exit that, then I can see I actually have my first bank on the pads. So now I have those drums and I have chromatic mode still working right here on the keys. If I go into another bank, then I could have up to actually 3 whole banks accessible at my fingertips at once. For example, on this bank F right here, I've got some loops. So then I got keys and drums. So that really smooths out the workflow quite a bit. All right, so a quick little word about music theory with this thing and hacking scales. If we press the scale button, now this is what I use the most. There are other music theory tools here, but I prefer using the scale most of all with the SP. And if you turn that on, you can adjust the key from this knob. So I will change this over here to E, and then you can change what type of scale, like major, minor, and all that. I'll keep it, well, we have a lot. Let me show you. There's quite a bit. Just scan through them. I won't read them all, but quite a bit there. So I'm going to go all the way back to major, keep it on that. We have different modes. So we have snap to scale, which will just put the same note on the keys that are not part of the scale. A lot of keyboards have this. I don't really prefer that mode. I'll keep turning. So filter out of scale is a good, I think, tool for learning, because this will just take out the notes that are not in the scale. So it lets you, it shows you what the scale is made up of and how to play that scale. But if you want to skip that and just really hack scales, turn it all the way to easy scale. And what that does is it puts all the notes in the scale on the white keys. Another reason why this is probably the perfect MIDI controller for the SP is because SP's chromatic mode only has 2 octaves, while 25 keys is about 2 octaves. So having this all set up like this, you know, 3 different banks accessible at my fingertips is great for coming up with ideas before I even enter the pattern sequencer. For example, I have loops over here, right? And I've got them also BPM sync, so I can press hold right here, let go of the pad, shift pad 11, and I can go ahead and turn up the tempo, find a tempo that's going to work for my current project or kind of vibe that I'm going for. I've been going for kind of lower stuff because I've been pursuing how to make my own samples, like soul samples and stuff, so I'll keep it at 63.5 is what I got it at. So now I can start playing keys, you know. Say I want to get a different sound, move over back to the bank that has all the instruments on it, chromatic mode, make sure it's on poly, and then just start playing around. I like the sound of something like that. Maybe I move over here, just press hold again, stop the loop. Now, maybe I'm using the loop just as a placeholder. It's not necessarily something that I'm going to put into my beat, but it's something that helps me get inspired and also keep time. So now I can move into the pattern sequencer and start recording. I'll record these chords and then start building off of that. One thing I do to like speed up my workflow and keep it smooth is copy what I last did and do things in stages, just because if I mess up right here, then I could delete this and then start over again. So I'm gonna add some drums here and see, I've already got that accessible. I don't really have to think about moving into different banks, and the workflow is a lot smoother for this composition and sequencing. Okay, so I messed up on that rod. I didn't really like it, so let me pattern edit it. Hit delete that. Try again. I actually think these pads are a lot more sensitive than the SP pads. I can get more nuance and velocity sensitivity, which in this case is kind of messing me up. So I'm gonna use the SP pads to record that one more time. A little sloppy, but you get the idea. So I'm gonna exit the pattern sequencer and then like move over to these sounds here. Maybe give me a bass line. And one cool thing is that like once I'm out of the pattern sequencer, my play button actually works. And this is set up like by default. It works right out the box, except for one thing that you want to make sure is set. If you go down to MIDI clock out, by default, when you pull this out the box, it is set to on. And if it's on, you're going to have the MIDI clock tempo that is on the MIDI controller here on the launch key controlling this. So if I press play, it's at a whole nother tempo that's going on in here, which you may want, but I like my SP to be the master, you know, centerpiece in this whole situation. So I'll make sure the MIDI clock is off and the play button works as a stop and play, which is great because now I can move around and start to come up with even more ideas without even being in the pattern sequencer, along with what is already been sequenced in my pattern. So I'll go ahead and practice this little bass line. Then I can exit chromatic mode and I can easily be back in the sequencer. Now I got my bass line going. So once again, find a new sound. All right, so I like this marimba sound, so I'll move back into the pattern sequencer and record that. So I can just continue that process. Find new sounds, play around, maybe add some reverb. All right, that's my process for composing original music in the SP-404 Mark II. Adding a MIDI keyboard definitely smooths out the workflow quite a bit, and I definitely recommend the Launchkey series, the MK4 by Novation. So I'll put in the description, I'll put all the gear used. One thing to also keep in mind is there is a specific MIDI cable, TRS MIDI cable, that you'll need to have these two things communicate with each other. So I'll have that in there. There'll be a link for the Roland SP-404 Mark II if you don't have one, the keyboard, the chord, and all these samples from my new sample pack right there. I'll just put it at the top so you can easily access that. So if you did appreciate the video and you found some value in it, please do give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment if you got any questions. I'll try my best to answer them. I do got a question for you. Are you composing original music with the SP with chromatic mode? I think there's a huge chance that most people aren't. It just seems like there's so many other better options out there, but I think it's a cool option. So if you want a good starting point, once again, go check out the sample pack, Lifted Noise project pack #1. All the sounds that you heard in this video are from that pack. All right, I appreciate y'all. Keep on running with your dreams. God bless. Peace.